day, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon. I don't know if that. Do you say good afternoon? Yeah, that's a word. Whatever time you're listening to this podcast, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. It's considered TV, right? I'm guessing. We're live on the YouTube. Live on the YouTube. Not in Belarus, though. Told for paper, you have to flatten it before you receive. I'm guessing they don't crush everything before there's like paper. Like 3D objects get routed away. If you leave your paper like a box, if you leave it assembled, the likelihood that it's going to get back goes down. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to listen to the people of packaging. Well, hey everybody, this is super exciting because we have solved the internet conundrum between Utah, New Jersey, and Sweden. So we are recording this after a couple of tries, and I'm super glad to be able to bring you this podcast because I was delighted and surprised by this product. And so it's cool to be able to take just a random purchase at my local Kroger and turn it into from a video to seeing them at Pack Expo to now being able to record a podcast. So I am joined here by Jen Jablonski. Jen is the or a business development manager at Graphic Packaging for the Boardio product.
Hey, we do have a bit of a larger team. Yeah.
But you are the only one that matters on this podcast right now.
Correct.
So
yeah.
Apologies to the business development managers, but you didn't make it.
Sorry.
So tough break. And then I've also got Max Goodman. Max is a senior product manager. Same question for you. There are multiple senior product managers for Boardio. Is this correct, Max?
I'm the only one for Boardio.
Hey, you are the Boardio senior product manager. And congratulations on being senior. It's a great honor to meet you, sir. And then finally, last but definitely not least, we've got Alex Werne. He is the sustainability manager. Are you general to GPI or specific to Boardio?
Specific to Boardio, but as a part of GPI as a whole. But I don't work on the corporate side. My entire focus is on Boardio.
Okay, got it. And do you have a team of people? I know this is all pretty new for
GPI.
So
we're actually like a big sustainability team within GPI, but here in Lund, where we are in Sweden, it's me and another colleague of mine that works specifically with Boardio.
Got it. Well, in the U.S., our exposure to Swedish culture is really just the Muppets with the chef. And so what's maybe one thing that you can educate us on before we get into the cool product here at Boardio? Like, what's one thing about Sweden that you're like, you know what, we wish every American knew, because every American listens to this podcast, just so you know, all 300 plus million. What's something that you're like, I wish Americans knew this about Sweden, because we get sick of people not knowing this. Is there anything that like sticks out to you? Any like
we don't have we don't have polar bears, but I don't know, Max. Do you have anything?
I was about to say the same thing. I'm tired of getting questions about the polar bears walking around on our streets. That doesn't happen. People tend to know that IKEA is Swedish, but that's probably about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so no polar bears were harmed in the making of furniture. That's what you're saying we should remember about Sweden.
Exactly. Go for that.
And
Boardio, right?
Boardio.
I think that what we should do is we should make Boardio more well known than the Swedish meatballs at IKEA or the Swedish chef from the Muppets. It's a tall task, but I think we can start it right here.
I love that idea, Adam.
Okay. Well, then let's jump. I won't do my Swedish chef impression because it's horrible. And
now I'm kind of curious though.
No, it's not. It's not good. So Jen, I would like to start with you here because I made a video here. I bought this Mentos gum, and honestly, excuse me, the reason I bought it was because I do obviously make a lot of packaging content, and it was new, it was different, and I hadn't really seen it. And I was like, oh, this is new and different, and I haven't really seen it. So I bought it. I came home, and I literally did no research. I didn't go on the internet. I didn't look up what was going on. I didn't check the how to recycle. I didn't look at the bottom of the container or anything like that. You can still a few. Shout out to Mentos, by the way. Solid product. I have chewed my way through loads of this gum.
Very nice.
Um,
We can get you some more of those, by the way, in other flavors.
I will devour it. But so I came home, I made the video. I didn't know anything about it. It was a fun video. It's done fairly well on internets. Did you guys get that in Sweden? Did my video make it there? So the internet connection worked.
Yeah.
That way. Okay, that's good to know. So and then everybody, Jen, that I knew who is connected to Boardio reached out and they said, you have to talk to Jen Jablonski about this product. And I said, wow, I didn't know that everybody knew Jen. So
now we know each other.
Now we know each other. Right? We got to meet at Pack Expo.
Yeah.
Accidentally. I just was wandering and I was like, hey, what's this? I really have enjoyed just organic interactions with people. They seem to be, obviously they're a lot more genuine. Like people were reaching out to me like, how much is GPI paying you to make this? And I was like, $0. And I never asked. Like, this is a genuine exploration of what this product is and what it can do. So Jen, why don't we start a little bit with what the heck is this packaging? Like, give us a little bit about the history.
Yeah, absolutely. So in order to give you the history, kind of go back to like the 80s. And it's going to be AR Packaging in Sweden. And they had developed a pack called the Sika can. So very similar to what you see with the Boardio today. It's paper-based in the body and the base. But what's different from the Boardio pack is that you're going to see a plastic lid. And that was with the original iteration of the pack. So the goal of this pack was really, to reduce air in transportation and warehousing, while still maintaining, the product protection that these products require and, the consumer experience. So this was launched in the 80s. First product was Oh Boy. In the US, you guys grew up, I think, probably with Nesquik. In Canada, we had Cadbury or Nesquik. Oh Boy was kind of their go-to chocolate powder, and that was in the Sika can. And Max and Alex, I'm sure you guys grew up on that pack.
Definitely.
In your households. Actually, I have a friend who lives close to me in New Jersey, from Sweden. And when I go to Sweden, she always asks me to bring her home some Oh Boy, multiple packs of it. So as a nostalgia thing.
Is it still in has it evolved with the packaging?
No, unfortunately, it was discontinued about 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
But
it was
every
in that for,
Swede
what,
would have had it
30?
in their household growing up.
Yeah,
And it was
since
like
the 80s,
so
it was
good
in
if
that
you
pack.
Yeah, and every like me and Max have memories when you snuck to the cupboard and took a lot of the chocolate powder and just a little bit of milk, and you basically got candy. So it's so fun that I have so many memories of this product. Now I'm sitting here, working with the same type of products, but now they have evolved, of course. But
I feel the same way about Nesquik, and it'd be interesting. My friend Fred Richards in Chicago is started the Chicago Brand Museum, and I've talked a lot about that. But it would be interesting to see if he has any Oh Boy packaging, because he's collected packaging from all over the world for the last 20-something years, and has maybe one of the world's largest collections of branded packaging. And he's setting it up to show the history of brands from, big, huge, global, iconic brands, just down to a tin of sardines from the the early 1900s during the Depression or something like that. It's fascinating. So I will ask him, do you have any Oh Boy original packaging? And then
I think we do
we
still
can
have
definitely
some.
share one.
Yeah, we can share them. We still have some in-house in Sweden and Lund. So if he doesn't, let us know.
Got it.
So from there, the pack. Sorry, Adam. From there, the pack expanded into other categories. Infant formula was a big one. Coffee, other categories. So the technology's been proven for decades, right? We've sold billions of packs in this sequence. And 2019, after some years of development, that's when Boardio was launched. So using the same technologies and materials, with some modern updates, adding in the paper integrated lid that you see today. So from there, we had, yep, exactly, the Mentos pack.
I feel like hungry hippos.
Yeah. So then 2021, 2022 timeframe, we had our first commercial launches in coffee in Canada, and then with the Mentos pack that you're showing as well. And that was right around the same time that Graphic Packaging had purchased AR Packaging. And Graphic Packaging is a global leader in sustainable consumer packaging. So it was a really good fit between the two companies and expanding our footprint in North America. I mean, the AR Packaging team had done a great job getting the word out about the product in North America. And then adding on, GPI works with some of, the most recognizable brands globally. It's really helped us get that sustainable message of this product out and some of the benefits. And, to your point, I was with GPI when this product came on board, and I remember seeing it and saying, I have to be a part of that evolution. I love the package, and I just think there's so many great opportunities from a sustainability perspective, which obviously we'll get into, but also brand differentiation. There's a lot of categories where I think this can elevate the brands that are out there even further, just by differentiating themselves from what's on shelf.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't initially drawn to it because I was like, oh, this is really sustainable. The first thing that caught my eyes was that it was different. And in a retail environment, we have the attention span of goldfish. It's like you are competing for these fractional moments of truth every single minute. And now that we all have these cell phones that we carry around, you're competing with TikTok and Instagram while people are just scrolling and shopping at the same time. So anything you can do to cause someone to go, wait, what's that? The brand has to deliver, the product has to deliver, the marketing has to deliver on there. But just the sheer shape of it is going to, cause a little bit of that. So Max, I'd like, because you predated you were with AR Packaging, right, prior to the acquisition, correct?
Yeah, so I started at AR Packaging right before the Boardio pack was developed. And I saw that whole evolution of going from a plastic lid top to integrating it into the Boardio package to make it more sustainable and more efficient.
So the thing that I learned at Pack Expo was that this is essentially like formed and filled and then sealed all in one system, basically. I was assuming that there was this was like, when I saw this, I was like, okay, well, this ships in and then this lid is somehow integrated into the top. I didn't know magic. There's like wizardry that's happening here. Swedish wizardry is going on. I wasn't quite sure how this thing was made. And then I learned that this was like the moment for me. I learned that this all ships into the fillers flat, right? Like that I did not know. So talk a little bit about that process. Should I say about? Is that better, Jen? Do you want me to? I'm trying to.
I appreciate it. I didn't understand you before that, but
I know. I know. This coffee is filled. This is Tim Hortons coffee, by the way, just only for you.
Perfect.
It is not Tim Hortons coffee. But, yeah. So talk a little bit about that as from a product manager standpoint. I think that's I call it the unsexy side of sustainability, because it really drives home everything from a cost standpoint to a production throughput to storage. Like, it's just stuff that nobody really sees.
Are you tired of managing your specs in spreadsheets, PDFs, or relying on suppliers to do it for you? Learn how SpecRite can help you digitize and take control of your product and packaging specifications to drive sustainability reporting, SKU rationalization, and better collaborate across departments and with your suppliers. Go to specrite.com to learn more.
Have you ever wondered, how do I reduce my carbon footprint? Should I focus on recycled content or reducing weight first? Which design strategies are the most effective for my products? Triac offers multiple solutions for lifecycle assessment, goals management, reporting, EPR fees, and more. Visit triac.com to connect with our team and register for a free 10-day trial of Eco Impact Compass to get started today.
But it's really where to me, that's kind of where the magic is for the product a little bit.
You're absolutely right. One of the biggest benefits of the Boardio pack is that it is delivered in flat, and it's something the consumers never really see, and they don't realize that so many other packaging types are actually made in one location and then shipped to the location where they're filled and sealed. Whereas with the Boardio pack, we're printing and cutting everything in our facilities, delivering that in flat, and then it is assembled in our machinery right before it is being filled. So the efficiency gains compared to any pre-erected packaging is significant. And that has a big impact both on carbon emissions for the transport, but also on warehousing and the amount of people you need in a facility to transport and move pallets around. If you compare Boardio to a pre-made can, for 1 million packs, we would typically only need 2 to 3 trucks, whereas a pre-made can solution would need anything between 40 and 60 trucks for the same amount of cans. So that impact is quite significant, and something that consumers actually never see or realize. That's all on the production side.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed too on the bottom here, there's no, is this typically left kind of blank for what is this, lot and date coding? Obviously I just have the one, and I should have picked up some Vital Proteins actually when I was at Costco the other day. But is that intentionally left blank so that there can be so that the top and the lid, I'm guessing these are one piece, is that correct? The top and the lid, or are these
So it's a pre-cut piece, so the body around it is one piece, and then the lid is inserted from the top into the package. So the lid component is formed out of 2 pieces that are assembled in the machinery and welded together.
How do you, sorry, but like, how do you get the hinge? That's like, so this is put on the top, but there's no, that's Swedish wizardry right there, Matt. What is happening?
Yeah.
You can't weld paper, like what?
Well, the Boardio pack has several layers in there to protect the product, but also to reinforce the package. And you see the seal strip at the back end that is reinforcing the hinge. And that hinge will actually hold for a few hundred openings. So even for products like gum that you open and close several times, the hinge will hold up even though it's a paperboard product.
So this lid goes in, and then this wraps around the whole thing to seal. So this wrap is the
and then you
last
curl
thing,
it at the top.
and you curl it at the top and bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
I
And
got
we
it.
actually had people in our lab opening and closing the pack every day for what I think 120 days to make sure that it's remaining that elasticity that it needs. So
That's cool. Yeah, it's super fascinating. So Alex, you are a sustainability nerd, and so I'm guessing this had to be just what an exciting thing to jump into here, because I talk a lot about, I call them the 4 Ps of sustainability. Does it protect the product? So you have to consider shelf life. You have to consider actual physical, tangible protection. Is it going to be damaged? All that stuff. Is it good for the planet? Which I think is honestly maybe one of the more argued subjective points. It's hard to get to real, true data, which I believe that you guys can get to based on the conversation with Max. It's like 2 truckloads versus 50 truckloads equals fewer carbon emissions. Like nobody has. I went to public school and I can do that math. So, but is it good for the planet? Does it connect with your people? So is there a brand story? Because if you can't sell your product, you will not be in business. You cannot sustain business, right? And then finally, on that point, does it make a profit? And so I try to walk people through all 4 of those. And to me, once I found out, honestly, about what Max was talking about, that's where my brain went, oh, this checks all 4 boxes.
Yeah, and we usually talk about that we have a very holistic approach to Boardio, that we don't just look at one aspect of it. We look at the whole cycle of the pack, and what Max was talking about, the delivering flat aspect is one of those aspects. But if we then go on and you look at the recyclability or a low carbon footprint, the fun thing about Boardio, even though you can just choose one of them and you will get a good result or a good indication, and that is for me very interesting. But we try to always look at the whole, as I said, have a holistic approach, because otherwise it's very easy in the debate today. You talk about one specific thing, oh, this is a monomaterial, but then you miss maybe the other parts. How is it transported, for example? So that's a fun thing with Boardio, that it ticks almost every box, as you said as well.
And the savings are typically tremendous compared to other packaging types. We're not talking a few percent in savings. We're talking very significant savings, as you can see on some of the packages launched on the market that are saying 90% reduction in plastic, for example. That's pretty significant.
No doubt. And so I think the questions, Alex, that I got from my favorite random user, 62785-9er, whoever they are on TikTok, right? But these random people online, these are questions that I know that have come up before as well, right? So, Max, you were talking about how there's a reduction in plastic, and this says it's made with 90% paperboard. I actually like that you don't hide that. You say this is 90% paperboard, and there is 10% of something else. But at least in the U.S., from what I can gather, that 10% does not impact its curbside recyclability. Is that the same sort of across the board?
Oh, exactly. And across the board, it's a bit, it's hard to just draw one conclusion, because in Europe at the moment, we have different rules in each European country, which has different levels. For example, a threshold for if you can call it paper or not. Boardio is classified as paper in all of those markets, but there are different levels. But we totally agree. And as I said, we have to have a holistic approach. So Boardio is not a miracle product. We still need a barrier to protect the product, as you were mentioning. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, do we need, for example, a very thick, heavy monomaterial to protect the product, or can we exchange some of that material towards paperboard and get it recycled in the paper recycling stream? Then we stand to benefit a lot, because we can lower the footprint. We can maybe even we can lower transportation. We can have we get so many benefits by reducing just the amount of material. And that is one of the things our customer work with the most, reducing the amount of material. So as you said, we still have a little bit of plastic, because we might need a barrier. And if we move up to a more high barrier solution like infant formula, we need a little bit more to protect the product, because as you said, we don't want to reduce the shelf life of the product. That is the main thing. And also to keep in mind when you talk about package is that the packaging itself often don't contribute that much if you look at the whole product to the footprint. So it's very important that we don't get too focused on just the packaging and make bad decisions that affect the product overall. And shelf life is a big part of that.
Do you think that this is maybe a concern, a greater sustainability concern that I've heard with some of these EPR bills, which is you have people passing laws that don't understand the complexities of supply chain. So I think about things like food waste is the third largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And, maybe there are, I'm sure you spend a lot of time talking about EPR laws, especially over in Europe, and we're just getting familiar with them here in the US. Mm-hmm. But it does seem as though oftentimes that gets missed in the whole conversation. Is take infant formula. We had a massive shortage of infant formula during COVID. And imagine if that were happening at scale and you couldn't because you banned, let's say somebody said, well, this has to be 100% paperboard. You can have no plastic in it. That's not an EPR law, by the way. I'm not breaking any news. Let's just say somebody passed that law and said you can only have recycled paper, and you're like, well, we can't put baby formula in there. It's going to go bad, and then you're going to have to throw it away. And there's nothing sustainable about throwing product into the landfill after you've made it. So
exactly. And what we see, my personal opinion at the moment, is that we see a lot of legislation within the packaging sector, which I think is a very, very good thing. But for example, in Europe, we have a huge packaging legislation called Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation, which strives to harmonize the entire market. We can talk a lot about that. But for example, in that legislation, you don't look at the product as a whole. But I think this will just come in the future, where we will include the whole product and the impact of the whole product, because otherwise we can get too focused on packaging, and especially when we start to grade packaging in different recyclability grades, because then we might miss, yes, we can, as you said, we can remove all the barrier. For example, in Europe, we could do that for infant formula, but it would destroy the product within days. So, but then we will have a slightly lower category, but we will be able to save the product inside. So, so it's almost like a philosophical discussion. But I think at the moment we need to start to get more legislation into place and then take it from there. So even though, yes, there are downsides with a lot of the legislation that is coming, it's still a step in the right direction, according to me at least.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, I'm not. I'm a fan of it. I just think that sometimes there was one that was passed. I think it might have been in California, that they ended up having to rescind because a giant food manufacturer said, we can't put our food in your state now. And they were like, what? Just change it out from this to this. And they were like, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in changing over our machinery and, like doing testing. It's direct food products, like on and on and on. And they were like, you can't give us, it was like 3 years or something like that to get out of this certain type of material. So I completely agree, right? I love the idea, but it has to be bathed in some sort of.
Yeah. And the fun thing here in Europe with the packaging and packaging waste regulation, I think we're taking giant steps towards a very good packaging market, because we get a harmonized market across Europe. At the moment, each country has specific rules, as I said previously, specific thresholds. But in a dream world, it would be so amazing if, like, the US could look towards Europe, towards those markets that function very well, and say, let's do it like that. Everyone doesn't have to reinvent the wheel each time we do something like this. And I get sometimes, the feeling when we start on the political side of it, we start anew each time. And that becomes a problem. And so now in the US, we have started to see EPR legislation coming in, but we started with EPR in Europe. In Germany was first out in like 1991. But it took us 30 years to realize maybe we need a more harmonized market. Mm-hmm. So it would be interesting to see how the US will do it, if they maybe cut some of those corners instead of, everyone doing their own thing, and then realize maybe we should harmonize it, and then look towards each other and see what works the best, and what can we take from Europe, and to make it easy for the industry as well. And here in Europe at the moment, industry is working very well together with the legislators to implement the PPWR, which is a fantastic way of doing it, and it would be amazing if we could do a similar way in the US.
That's great. Well, Jen, I have sort of one final question, and maybe all three of you can talk about this based on your current kind of markets and segments. But Alex set it up perfectly by talking about the U.S., and we're the only two people here in the U.S. So
yes,
this is a new product to the U.S. market. Currently, I've got the gum packaging. I saw the Vital Proteins. I've seen some coffee.
Correct.
Is that sort of the current state? And maybe talk about where can people go and get their stuff put into your stuff?
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that question very much, Adam.
Stuff.
Yeah. You're right. Those are the current markets that we are in. I know that we have some expansions coming in 2025 in new categories. But we are working on co-packer networks right now to expand the product offering so that more people can get into this packaging. So coffee, as you mentioned, we have two great partners that we're already working with, Club Coffee and Mother Parkers. And then moving into the new categories that we're looking at, JJM Packaging, which is in New Jersey. They're going to be able to do powdered products. They're going to be able to potentially do oats, granola. We're looking at some of those type of materials. And then as well, Combined Technologies Inc., which is in Indiana. They're going to be looking at the vitamin and supplement space as well. So they'll have some opportunities next year with this packaging equipment. There's a lot of categories that we're still looking at, just to name a couple. Nut categories, we're looking for, partners in that, pet treats, drink mixes. Any else that I'm missing, Max or Alex, that you can think of? Those are kind of
pretty good summary of the key ones, definitely.
Yeah, I think mostly anything, Adam, that has a barrier requirement is going to be a pretty good fit with this product.
Got it. And I guess for Max or Alex, are any of those already over in Europe? I mean, or is Europe also sort of looking at similar things? Because Boardio is what, 5 years old? 4 or 5 years old over there?
So Boardio is quite new in Europe as well, and roughly in the same categories. But if you look at Sekacan, the previous generation of packaging, I mean, that has been used for a wide range of products. Even simple products as flour used to be in the Sekacan for the added convenience of the package. And that's also a big upside of having a rigid pack with a hinged closure like that, is that you add convenience and you can differentiate yourself on the shelf. And this flour customer had a huge upswing. Even if they went into a more expensive type of packaging, suddenly they were differentiated on the shelf compared to competition, and they saw a big increase in their sales. So there's a lot of upsides once the consumer has the pack, and in Europe they really like the hinge top lid as well.
That's cool. I said I had one last question, but I didn't. I totally lied, and I apologize to everybody for my dishonesty. What about emerging brands? So now with GPI's acquisition, I think about okay, Mentos, big. Vital Proteins, I think they're owned by Nestle, big company, right? Like these are big giant companies. Is there in maybe the future plans to do, I don't know, digital printing, or so same format? Imagine you talk about Mother Parkers, right? Like same format for coffee, but a brand has 15 different SKUs of different roasts, and they vary, and so they want to print the outside stuff digitally or shorter turns. Is that something that's happening currently, or is that in the plans for the future?
So right now, I would say no, we don't have the capabilities for that. I know we've talked about small and emerging brands in the future, but right now I would say it depends on how small, right? How small of a startup. We would like to find opportunities to get everybody who wants to be in the pack into the pack, and that's why we're developing the co-packer networks. But it just depends on how startup are they.
Yeah, because I guess you could in theory. I'm just it's dangerous to process out loud on a podcast, but I guess theoretically you could treat this almost like you would a bottle, right? Where a brand could have the same form factor, the same print, so they could scale up their print, and then maybe secondarily put a paper label with a varnish that is then passed through How to Recycle, which I love, by the way, that you got the How to Recycle logo. Super helpful. But then that could pass through How to Recycle, so you could do sort of higher SKU counts, but still take advantage of the efficiencies of Boardio. I don't know if that's just trying to think through ways that some of these companies, you're getting into these new markets that tend to be a bit more fragmented on their SKU proliferation, can still take advantage of this, of what you guys are doing. So I think it's cool. Is anything like that currently happening, or am I just, is my head?
Any technology that can be used to print on paper can be used to print on Boardio, more or less. It's just a matter of implementation and finding the right areas to focus on. But we do have a lot of flexibility within graphic packaging, so there are several ongoing projects to develop and look into what is the next area and what should we add to the package.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, Jen and Max and Alex, this has been awesome. It's been great. I'm a big fan. I feel like but I mean, you three are good people, but I'm more of a fan of the packaging. I'm so sorry. I need to
we love it as well.
I need to get Boardio's autograph, and I would like for Boardio to follow me on Twitter. No, don't. So other than connecting up with the co-packers, what's the best way for people to get in touch if they have any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Adam, you have my information. If you want to put that out with the podcast, I'm happy to have people reach out with inquiries, and we can connect them individually with the co-packers, or if there's new categories or questions that they have, they can feel free to reach out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any last words before we stop recording here?
And the same goes if there's a question for the sustainability side as well. Then connect to Jen and she will connect you to me.
Sounds good, but nobody's allowed to connect to Max. He's the OG.
Here.
Oh, we'll work together and answer any questions that come in, definitely. I mean, we really want to see the Boardio package succeed and expand to new markets and new areas, and also beyond North America and Europe. We really want to take Boardio globally.
That's great.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And
Well,
just
go ahead.
wanted to say also thank you very much, Adam, for having us on. We're very appreciative of it and the support of the pack. I think, we're very excited about where this could go in the market. And like you said, if anyone has any questions, please reach out. And thank you again for having us.
For sure. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Adam.
All right.
Thank you.